Villa 400 stood at the edge of the town, a looming structure that had been abandoned for years. Its once grand architecture was now in ruins, with ivy creeping up the walls and shattered windows that stared like empty eye sockets. The locals whispered about the villa, claiming it was cursed, but no one dared to speak of the horrors that lurked within. One evening, a young couple, Sarah and Ahmed, moved into the villa. They were new in town and had found the property at an unbelievably low price. Ignoring the warnings of the locals, they brushed off the tales as mere superstition. The first night was uneventful, but as the days passed, strange occurrences began to unfold. Sarah was the first to notice the peculiarities. At night, she heard faint whispers that seemed to come from the walls. The sounds were indistinct, like a distant conversation she couldn't quite make out. When she mentioned it to Ahmed, he laughed it off, attributing it to the wind. But soon, Ahmed began experiencing strange phenomena too. Objects moved on their own, doors creaked open without explanation, and the air grew thick with an unsettling presence. One evening, as they sat in the living room, the temperature suddenly dropped and the lights flickered. A cold breath of air brushed against Sarah's neck, sending chills down her spine. What was that? She whispered, her voice trembling. Ahmed, trying to remain calm, stood up to investigate. As he moved towards the hallway, a loud bang echoed through the villa, followed by the sound of footsteps, heavy, dragging footsteps that seemed to come from the floor above. "Someone's in the house," Ahmed shouted, grabbing a flashlight and racing upstairs. Sarah followed closely behind, her heart pounding in her chest. They reached the second floor, where the air was thick with a musty smell. The hallway was dimly lit, with shadows dancing on the walls. As they approached the last door at the end of the corridor, the footsteps stopped. Ahmed pushed the door open, revealing an empty room except for a single, ancient mirror hanging on the wall. The mirror was an oddity. It was cracked, and the frame was ornate but decayed, as if it had been there for centuries. As Sarah stepped closer, she noticed her reflection was distorted. Her face seemed to shift and change, becoming older, more haggard, as if the mirror showed a different version of her. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. The room grew darker, and the temperature plummeted. The whispers returned, louder this time, circling them, echoing off the walls. "We need to get out of here," Sarah screamed. But as they turned to leave, the mirror began to pulse, emitting a low, guttural moan. The reflection in the mirror was no longer theirs. Instead, it showed a figure, a woman, gaunt and hollow-eyed, with long, matted hair. She stared back at them, her lips moving, but no sound coming out. Then the figure stepped out of the mirror. The room erupted in chaos as the woman, now corporeal, lunged at them with unnatural speed. Ahmed tried to fight her off, but his hands passed right through her as if she were made of smoke. The woman let out an ear-piercing scream, and the walls of the villa trembled. Sarah and Ahmed ran, stumbling down the stairs, but the villa had come alive. The walls seemed to close in on them. The floorboards creaked and shifted beneath their feet, and the whispers grew into a deafening roar. They reached the front door, but it wouldn't budge. The villa was holding them captive. In the reflection of the cracked windows, they saw the woman standing behind them, her hollow eyes filled with malice. "This house is ours," she hissed, her voice echoing through the villa. "You will never leave." The last thing Sarah and Ahmed saw was the woman raising her hand, her fingers stretching unnaturally long as she reached out to claim them. The next morning, the villa was silent. The locals noticed that the couple was gone, but no one dared to enter Villa for 102. It was only years later, when a new family moved in, that the truth was discovered. Hidden in the walls, behind the ancient mirror, were the remains of Sarah and Ahmed locked in a final embrace, their faces twisted in terror, and the villa remains, waiting for its next occupants who will never leave. Villa for 100 to breathe, and it is always hungry.